In Explain Like I'm 5 terms, how should someone determine whether or not to form an LLC or a C Corp?
Sure. So that's a question that I get asked all the time. We work with a lot of LLCs, a lot of C Corps, and there are quite a few differences between the two. But at the highest level, right, which is where we're going to try to stay here, a C Corp is a entity in and of itself, right? Your business is going to be an entity. Your business may be responsible for paying taxes. Your business has its own like board of directors and set of responsibilities that you have as a C Corp. An LLC is really more of a personal vehicle. A lot of single member foreign owned LLCs are what's called a pass-through entity, which means that the income that the LLC makes passes through to its owner in a way that it doesn't for a C Corp. So that may sound a little bit confusing, but what that means for the business owner is that a C Corp as its own entity is going to require more maintenance on an ongoing basis, and it's going to be a little bit more expensive to manage. Now, the advantage of having a C Corp is fractional ownership. It's much easier to sell a portion or all of your company or to accept investment from outside investors. So a lot of times what we see is venture funded startups or companies that hope to someday become venture funded startups forming Delaware C Corps. However, if for many people who are just looking to make personal businesses with incomes for themselves, an LLC is a much more common vehicle there. Kind of to summarize, like really, really briefly, a C Corp is going to be a much more labor intensive and slightly more expensive vehicle to manage, but it's worth it if you want to accept venture funding and create an entity separate from your personal income stream. But for freelancers and people looking to just make an income or run a small business, let's say, an LLC is often a less expensive, more practical vehicle that it's easier to manage.
I am a founder that wants to apply to a tech accelerator like Y Combinator, 500 Startups, Accelerprize. Should I form an LLC or a C Corp?
So in that case, most likely you're going to want to form a C Corp because you're trying to get into one of those accelerators. Now, one thing that I do see from time to time is people will form a C Corp with the idea that they're going to get into an accelerator or going to get venture capital investment, but the accelerator wants them to set it up in a particular way. So they end up reforming the company later. That's not, always the case. But sometimes I see people who have LLCs that then convert into C Corps when they turn into, or when they like apply for an accelerator or get accepted into an accelerator. So you can slice it up a lot of different ways. But what I would tell you in general is that those accelerators aren't going to invest in an LLC. They're only going to feel comfortable investing in a C Corp.
I am creating an online digital business. Could be online services, could be software as a service. Do I create an LLC or a C Corp?
Well, in that case, most of what we see is LLCs. Now, that's a little bit of a gray area, right? Because if you have a small software as a service company, maybe eventually you would want to sell it or get potential investors. So it depends on what your ultimate goal with it is. But one thing we see a lot of is digital marketing companies or consulting companies where somebody will pay them a fee to do some kind of digital marketing or something like that. And most of those entities we're seeing these days are LLCs. So I think that in that type of business, there's a little bit of wiggle room there. But an LLC is more common from what I'm seeing.
If I'm creating a drop shipping business, maybe that falls into e-commerce, LLC or C Corp?
Yep, that's going to fall under the same umbrella as e-commerce in general. LLCs are much more popular.
I am creating an online e-commerce company. Maybe I'm selling through Amazon, through Shopify, through Etsy. Should I create an LLC or a C Corp?
That one tends to skew a lot more towards LLCs. Most of the e-commerce companies that come to us that I see are LLCs, and that seems to be the easier way to manage it. Like I said, I can envision a scenario where a C Corp may provide certain tax benefits, but LLCs are much more common for e-commerce companies.